Hey everyone, it's Riddler here, and today I'm doing a Draw My Life video. Let's go ahead and get started. I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was born on September 9th, 1993, which was the year that the first Jurassic Park movie came out. Shortly after I was born, my mom moved us to California, where we moved around a little bit more. She tells me that it was so that she could be closer to my brother, which is fine because I kind of really wanted a brother. We moved around living in apartments or with family until I was about 4. That's when my mom met the dad that I have to this day. We finally moved out to a town called Barstow. It was literally in the middle of nowhere. When I was about 5, or maybe I was still 4, I'm not sure, my parents and I rented a U-Haul to help my aunt and my 2 cousins move to Utah. When we reached Las Vegas, my dad looked over at my mom and jokingly asked, "Do you want to get married?" And she said, "Sure." We stopped at a nearby chapel and got them married while I was actually still in my PJs. That's me in my onesie. Well, let's fast forward a little bit to when I was about 7. That's when me and my mom moved back to Utah, with my dad meeting us a little bit later. We lived in a few places in Utah, but we didn't stay anywhere for too long until my parents actually decided to buy a house. We were in that house for a little while, probably about 5 years or so. I went to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and a little bit of 10th grade. During that, I went through just a few little phases. That's actually about when the money really hit us hard, and we ended up losing the house. We moved again, but this time I took it a lot harder than the rest of the times. I started skipping school, becoming friends with disreputable people. I even started smoking. It wasn't until senior year that I got my act together. Because of all the skip days, and my junior year I had to stay after school to make up the credits so that I could walk with my class. I didn't want to become a no one, so I buckled down, I fixed my credits, and later that year I actually joined the delayed entry program for the US Navy. Well, amazingly, I graduated and walked with my class. I was very happy. Only about a month later, I left for boot camp. I went from being 17 and happy to 17 and miserable in boot camp. I will say boot camp was tough, but looking back on it, it wasn't as bad as I thought at the time. It did, however, teach me a valuable lesson. No one will take care of you but you. After I left boot camp, I went to Pensacola, Florida for my tech training. This is the first time that I ever had my own money, and I loved it. Pensacola was where I bought my first car, and I just kind of blew money after that. And after that, I actually started dating a girl that I knew back in high school, but sadly I had to leave after getting together with her to go on my first deployment. So basically from now, I started out in Utah, then went to Illinois, to Florida, then to California, and then to Bahrain. My first deployment wasn't all that bad, and I had stayed in touch with my girlfriend fairly well, so I planned on proposing to her. My plan went well. I came back, and I told my parents about it so that they would help. I drove all night from San Diego to Utah so that I can be there at night, and they actually had her sleep over so that I was able to surprise her at about 1 in the morning when I got there. I was happy again, I truly was, but it didn't really last long. After I left to go back to my duty station in San Diego, I started to make plans to move her out with me. I just didn't have the money. Well, that meant we kind of had to wait. 2 months after I had proposed to her, on Valentine's Day, I found out that she cheated on me, so I called it off. A few months later, I met this other girl, but I was very serious about breaking up when I was going on my next deployment, which was a few months from then. She ended up convincing me otherwise, though, and so I went back to Bahrain with another girlfriend. This time, I wasn't as talkative, so this made me a little worried, but I cared for her and I trusted her. When I got back, we were terrific. I loved her, and I actually decided to pop the big question again. I asked her to marry me, and we got married a couple of months later so that we can move in together and start our life. We lived together for a bit, and because of military, we had to move, which we ended up going to Hawaii. This wasn't the first time meeting Kyle, or Skullbane, but it is when we started to really become friends. Through some other of our friends, my first year in Hawaii is also the year that I first played D&D, and I fell in love with it instantly. Over the next couple of years, Kyle moved in and we moved to another part of the island. But my marriage at that point was starting to deteriorate. I ended up getting a divorce November of last year. If it wasn't for Kyle, I would have broken down several times. That same month, I met a new woman who has helped me tremendously, and we've actually been together ever since. I hope you've enjoyed hearing my life story, and this is Riddler from Nerds Anonymous signing off.